Hello everyone. I'm not sure if this is, let me see if I'm gonna watch myself, I guess, in this. Yeah, I think that's all right. So, welcome to my mountain life once again, and it is May 4th, and I have a few things to go over and talk about. So one of the things I've been keeping track of is how cold it's been at night, and the blooms, and when these trees are blooming. As you can see, this one behind me, I believe it's an underwood. If it's not, it's a Juanita, Asian plum, or American Asian hybrid. But I planted it so long ago, I don't really remember. But so this has been the first blooming tree that I have. This one and the tocas, and I'll show you that just before we end. As you can see, there's a sea of yellow on the ground here. Now, most people absolutely hate these dandelions. I absolutely love them. And one of the things about the area here, as you can tell with the deer fence, is that basically the deer have eaten everything underneath, about this high, underneath the entire forest. In my property and my neighbor's property, and there's really no flowers to speak of. And so one of the things that I decided that I was going to do is, when I fenced this in, I was going to let dandelions grow as much as they want, which seems crazy to people who like the monoculture grass, and that's what they enjoy, and they think dandelions are a big weed that they don't like and want to get rid of. But I'll tell you something about dandelions. At least here, they'll bloom for maybe a month, and then they're gone for the rest of the year. I hardly see them. So it's really kind of odd that that people are so concerned and worried about them, in my opinion, because it'll be green here in the month of June. This will last maybe for 2 weeks in May, maybe 3 weeks in May, and then they're gone. But this is really important, I feel, for the bees. So this is one of the first things that the bees get to eat, and there's honeybees all over in these dandelions. In fact, there's more honeybees in the dandelions than in this tree behind me. They're going after the pollen in the dandelions, and I'm not sure. I'm not an entomologist or whatever, so I don't exactly understand or know why the honeybees are doing that. But they're all over the dandelions. You can't see it maybe, but the tree behind me is just full of bees. But they're not really that many honeybees. Most of the bees in here are little tiny bees, and I think that they're either they're mason bees perhaps, or a mixture of a bunch of different things. But they're very, very small bees, but it's just swarming with bees right now. And I also saw hoverflies in here. So hoverflies, bees, honeybees, and a bumblebee here on occasion will come in here, and I'll watch it, but most of these are hoverflies in here, or I mean a mason bee, sorry, and a few hoverflies intermixed. Now, behind me over on this side is two pear trees, early golden Ure, and they're both blooming, but when you go to the trees, there isn't a lot of activity. And what I understand is that pears don't really put out the pollen that the bees are all after, and so they prefer the Asian plums. These are like candy to the bees, and apparently for the honeybees, dandelions are candy to them. The tocas are blooming, and I'll show you those as well. As far as the temperatures that I've been keeping track of, it has been getting down cold. Like, it was 27 degrees Fahrenheit the last 2 nights. So it hit down at 27 degrees. It's been getting up to around 40 to maybe to 50. About a week ago, I think it hit 59. But then at that time, it was hitting 59. The temperatures were really condensed. It was like 59 during the day, and it was like 34 or 40 at night. So there was a very narrow range. But 27 to 40 to 48 or whatever is is like a 20-degree shift. Now, the 20 degrees, you would think that that would hurt the trees, the blooms, but from this is what I read, and I'm going to go over this in more detail when I get the full results of the temperatures and everything. But what I read was from one of the universities, Purdue, or I can't remember which one. I think it's been a study they've repeated a few times, but I think I got off the Purdue website, but I think Washington State did it as well. But anyway, they did these like temperature, like what hurts the blooms and frosts and things like that. And what they found was if you get to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, under 28 degrees Fahrenheit for apple trees specifically, and it stays for 30 minutes at that temperature, you'll lose 10% of your crop. If it drops below, I think 24 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll lose 90% of your crop. And so 24 degrees is really the key for the apple trees, like for frost. However, pear trees are different. They have a more tolerance for cold and frost, and Asian plums, or plum trees in general, seem to have a little bit more tolerance than the apple trees as well. But again, I'll bring that data out and talk about it right off of the websites from these universities, and I'll actually quote the university that I'm getting it off of. I'll try anyway. But this tree right here, I think we're going to have a lot of plums. Now, one of the interesting things they did say about that was it's actually not a bad thing if you lose a certain percentage of your plums to frost, because then you don't have to worry about breakage, and it'll be like a natural, nature's way of thinning your fruit. That's what they said on one of the websites I read about. So even though it says you lose 90%, I think that would probably be fairly substantial, right? But if you lose 10%, it may not even be noticeable. Like, you may not even know that you lost 10%. I mean, every branch of this tree is flooded with blooms. Every branch. So I'm going to have to thin this tree for sure, I would think. Otherwise, there's going to be way too much weight on these branches and it'll probably break. Now, what's interesting is right next to it, so here's the main tree right here, but I believe that this is one of those rootstocks. I don't know, but I think it's one of the rootstocks. It's a plum rootstock, but it might be like Maribalin or something like that, or an American plum rootstock. I bought this tree so long ago, I don't know. But what happened was some of these rootstocks started putting up starts. You know, like they came off of here. They're not from the plum tree. It's not like there's a seed that's falling and then it's becoming a new tree. This is from the rootstock itself. And I don't know what variety of rootstock it is. Now, most people would cut this out, but what I've been trying to do is on this side, which would be the east side of my property, of this little area, I've been trying to grow a shrub hedge. So I've been trying to grow shrubs along this, but it's been so hard. They don't grow very well. They get hit with the sun really hard. And I planted a lot of different shrubs in here, and I'll keep planting them. But it's just been a real kind of a challenge. And so when these started coming in, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to leave them, because this will give me the green hedge that I'm kind of looking for over here. On top of that, I don't know what this plum's going to be like. Now, it's an American plum, and I don't think that people actually really want to grow American plums unless they're growing them for hedges or something. Maybe the plum isn't that tasty or something. I don't know. But I'm guessing this is an American plum. And it's right next to this Underwood or Juanita, whatever it is. And I'm getting cross-pollination right now with all these mason bees. The other thing that's interesting is they tell you that plum trees, you don't want to prune in the wintertime, because if you prune them in the wintertime, you're going to be cutting off the branches that will be giving you fruit. and they say you probably should wait until the spring or the midsummer or whatever before you prune your plum trees. So what's interesting is this is like the top of this tree right here, but the blooms are way down here. So that was last year's growth, but it didn't bloom on last year's growth. It bloomed on 2 years ago growth. I think that's interesting. And that's pretty much the case with all of these branches except for the underwood back here, which seems to have blossoms all the way to the top, which this is an older tree, so it's not really growing tall anymore. It's more kind of spreading out. So anyway, I just think it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm excited, and I love to see all the bees in this. And I've been waiting and I haven't been actually putting any material out because I've been waiting to see what happens with the pollination here. And like, I'm trying to make food for bees all year long so that I don't have a crash in their populations. You know, once my orchard is done blooming, then what happens to the bees after that? If I don't have other things in August and July and early September for the bees to go after. So spring, I give them pollen from the Asian plums and from some European plums, and I give them dandelions in the spring. I also saw a bee in the tulips, which I didn't, like, I know tulips bloom, but I don't know, besides the bulb of the tulip, I really don't know much more about them. Like, do they actually produce something that something eats and then puts more tulips somewhere? I don't know how they spread, but they might. These are domesticated tulips, so they might not. I don't really know. So anyway, that is my update for May 4th. Good news on the pollinations going on. Bad news on how cold it was, but we're going to see if that has any impact at all on these trees. Now, we have dry, you know, the weather here is dry, it rains, but our climate is more dry compared to other people in the eastern part of the United States. So we don't have a lot of the fungus issues that they have. And as far as frost, maybe because it's drier, the frost doesn't have as big an impact. I don't know. But it didn't get below 24 degrees, and if plum trees are similar to apples, which I think they're a little more hardy, then I might have lost 10% of my my harvest because of that on the trees that are in blossom currently. But it shouldn't have a material impact because I'd probably have to thin the tree out anyway, at least this one. So anyway, I'm going to give you a kind of a view of the dandelions, and then I have a toka back here blooming. I'm going to show you that, and another small toka I just planted last year. We'll get kind of a little quick view of that, and then I'll try to give you like a view from inside here on the two other trees that are blooming. And as far as the other orchards back there, the north orchard has two tokas that are blooming, and it has an early gold pear and a Ur pear, which is the same here, blooming. And then the south orchard has a toka and the same thing. So the tokas are blooming right now. What's next up, it looks like, is going to be the black ice. It hasn't bloomed yet. And maybe the alderman will bloom a little bit here in the home orchard, but maybe I'll get a couple blooms in the south orchard too, or the north orchard, pardon me. And the black ice there, and I might get a bloom on the lacrescent. I'm kind of like crossing my fingers and hoping that that'll take place, but maybe not. And then these are the Asian plums, and then after that I should have some cherry blossoms hitting, I would think, or soon. And I'll show you those when that happens. What else? I've got 5 more trees coming that I know I'm going to plant this year, so that'll put my orchard at around 100, and my north and south orchard around 105 trees, and then I've got around 17 here, so I should be around the 120-ish if I don't lose any more. And then next year I've already got a pre-order with Cummins, and I plan on doing one with Raintree Nursery. And then of course I will buy some more localized trees as well. But what I'm saying is that once I get those 5 trees in, then I'll give you a tour on the varieties that I have, the cultivars for each one of the categories. And then I will do other videos in the future on specific varieties of trees and what I think of them, and the pest problems, disease, the fruit that it puts out, the blossoms, the productivity, like everything I can think of. And then I'll try to talk a little bit about rootstocks as well in the future. But I'm not like a professional orchardist. I'm learning like everybody else probably that watches YouTube and these things. I'm just kind of learning as I go, and this will be a success this year, we hope. It looks like it's going to be. All right, so let's show you what the field of yellow looks like. So these are all the dandelions. And like I said, other people hate them and they try to eradicate them, but not me. I love them. They're the easiest thing that I can get to have something for the bees. And I'll just do a 360 on all the dandelions. Most of them are like right in this area here. There's a field of yellow. Deer can't get these. All right, and then we've got our toca, my old toca tree. It's got some blossoms on it, not as thick as this other one. We'll get a little peek of the other toca tree. You can see the blossoms through the golden spice pear, which hasn't put out leaves or blossoms yet. And then let's go over and I'll have you take a quick little spy view here through here of the year. So there's the year, and it's got some blossoms on it. They actually haven't opened yet, so I haven't counted that tree as being opened blossoms yet for my documentation. And then this is an early gold pear tree. And then this one right here, which looks like it's blooming, is my old pear that I retired. So, and there you can see I got a wasp actually in there, a yellow jacket. But I don't know if you can see all those bees. There's honeybees in there, mason bees. Isn't that wonderful? I love it. They're just going to town. And as far as the other orchard, I have noticed a lot of different things in that too. But most of them are small little tiny bees, and I think they're mason bees. They're pollinating the trees and the other orchard. They're very tiny little bees. In fact, you look at them and you think, was that a mosquito? And they're like, oh no, that's a bee. It's not even a fly. And then there's hoverflies in here too. And then there was some strange thing, had a very long hibiscus, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a kind of fly or something. It's definitely set up to go after nectar or pollen or whatever. And so, yeah. Anyway, it might be a good year for us here in my mountain life. And I'll come back and talk to you when I have some more information on some things. So I hope your orchards are doing well too. And of course, I know that this is a little bumblebee right here. A little young bumblebee, it looks like. Not very big. So I'm sure that people have already... Oh, here's that weird thing. Is it? No, that's just a fly right there. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure you probably can't even see what I'm talking about, but I wish you all, luck in your orchards or your gardens. Thank you for watching.